In this video, we will be doing a brief overview of what's in the agenda packet for the January 2023 Planning Commission meeting, and I'll be adding a little commentary along the way. This video is a little longer than usual for an agenda packet overview. That is due to some of the major changes being proposed for how projects will be approved in the future and how future Planning Commission meetings are to be run. The agenda is divided into two sections. Consent items. These are items on this agenda designated by an asterisk next to the item number requiring a Planning Commission public hearing, but which, following an initial evaluation by staff, have been found to be consistent with existing county policy and the county general plan and are therefore recommended for routine approval. Prior to actual Planning Commission consideration, the chair will open the public hearing and ask if anyone present wishes to discuss any of the items. If you want a particular agenda item removed from consent, please speak up and advise the chair. That item will then be withdrawn from consent and reviewed in detail as scheduled. The remaining consent items for which there are no voice objections will be handled by a single action of the Commission. Non-consent items. These items will be individually discussed and reviewed in detail. We encourage all members of the public to participate in the meeting via teleconference by calling 520-525-8911. Members of the public who have questions regarding any agenda item may comment on that item before and during consideration of that item when called upon by the Planning Commission chair. Public comment at this time. Any person may comment on any item that is not on the agenda. No more than 5 minutes are allowed per discussion item per person. After approval of meeting minutes and correspondence, there is the conflict of interest declaration. Members of the Planning Commission will declare an actual or apparent conflict of interest before discussions or decisions about any matters in which they or anyone with whom they have a close personal relationship could directly or indirectly benefit or where such a benefit could be perceived. Under public hearings, there is 1, consideration of proposed amendments to the City of Livingston Planning Commission policies and procedures rules. Under other matters, the declaration of Planning Commission vacancies and expiration of Planning Commissioner terms. Followed by the election of Planning Commissioner Chair and Vice Chair, report of the Planning Director, additional matters, and finally, adjournment. All actions of the Livingston Planning Commission, excluding recommendations, are appealable to the Livingston City Council if filed within 10 days of the Planning Commission meeting at which the decision is made by filing an appeal in writing and paying the appropriate fee with the Livingston City Clerk. Now we're going to take a quick look at the written meeting minutes for December 13th, 2022. There were no comments from the public, and the public hardly ever shows up to Planning Commission meetings. The main topic was discussing recommended changes to the Development Standards Ordinance. One of the draft recommendations would remove the authority for final approval of site plan and design review from the City Council. There was also a question about what exactly does the word significant mean, as in significant exterior alterations to exterior surfaces. The minutes here doesn't give any kind of real answer, just says the city planner reviewed Chapter 7, Sections 5-7-2. I went to the city's online copy of the municipal code and looked up significant exterior alterations to see what Chapter 5-7-2 said, and I couldn't find anything about what the word significant meant. I found a reference in Chapter 5-3-15, but still couldn't find a definition of what constituted a significant exterior alteration, or what the word significant even meant. Could I have missed something? Or is the online version of the municipal code in need of a significant update? Either way, it sure would have been helpful if a definition of what exactly significant meant was included in the written minutes here. The motion to recommend approving the zoning ordinance text amendment was adopted 3-0. Since we're talking ordinance here, it will have to go to the City Council for final approval. We'll see how the council feels about the possibility of giving up control over site plan and design reviews. One question I have is if the City Council would be able to appeal a Planning Commission decision on site plan and design review, and then move it to a public hearing in an open session at City Council. As for policies and procedures, apparently there were a fair few questions and concerns, none of which are listed here, and the result is a revision being forwarded to January 10th. Removal of members and vacancies was also discussed. I can remember times in the past when the Commission couldn't scrape up a quorum, meaning projects were punted forward at least a month, if not more. You can tell by the vote here that, but for having at least one alternate commissioner present, there would not have been a quorum at that meeting. Moving on, the city planner highlighted recent city council actions, reviewed the City of Livingston planning and development projects, housekeeping items, and horizon items. I really wish here there would have been at least a short series of bullet points about what topics were discussed. There was a question about property near Lilac and Peach that wants to annex into the city. How that is going to work, given that our general plan update seems to have ground to a halt, I have no idea. Now let's touch on a few things from the staff report about proposed changes to Planning Commission policies, procedures, and rules. We'll focus on the items that I have highlighted here. All materials intended for a Planning Commission agenda shall be submitted to the city planner in sufficient time for the city planner to follow all protocol for scheduling the matter for a hearing, and the applicant must pay all fee balances due prior to the actual Planning Commission meeting. Planning Commission strongly recommends that an applicant or an applicant's representative participate in the Planning Commission meeting to answer questions. Members of the Planning Commission with questions or concerns about a scheduled Planning Commission agenda item should make every attempt to discuss the matter with the city planner prior to the Planning Commission meeting. Each member of Planning Commission shall review the Planning Commission procedural rules within 1 month of being appointed to the Commission. All mitigation monitoring programs shall be reviewed by the Planning Commission and recommended for approval to the City Council. Special meetings. A special meeting may be called at any time by the chair of the Planning Commission by a majority of the members of the Planning Commission. A written notice shall be delivered to the residents or by electronic correspondence to each planning commissioner, with a copy being sent to each local newspaper of general circulation a minimum of 24 hours prior to the special meeting being held. The notice will contain the nature of the business to be conducted. No other business shall be considered. This is about workshops, and I think we have a little typo here. Anyway, Commission is eligible to ask questions of staff on the matter to be discussed. The workshop will be considered a working discussion on a matter between city staff and the Commission. No action will be taken by the Commission as a result of the workshop. The Commission is free to state their opinions with staff, but a workshop is not a public hearing. The public hearing will be allowed to ask questions and observe the discussion. Agenda. To facilitate the conduct of business, the Secretary of the Planning Commission shall prepare an agenda. All items to be considered by the Planning Commission must be presented to the City Planner no later than 4:30 p.m. on the Wednesday prior to the regular Planning Commission meeting. The agenda shall be posted at City Hall at least 72 hours in advance of the meeting. The agenda will include a brief description of each item of business to be considered by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission will not act on any item that is not on the agenda. The Planning Commission may add items to the agenda only if deemed an urgency matter requiring immediate attention. This can only be accomplished by a 4 out of 5 majority vote of the Planning Commission. Presiding Officer. The chairman shall preside at the meetings of the Planning Commission. If the chairman is absent or unable to preside, the vice chair shall preside. The meeting will be conducted parliamentary procedural as considered in Robert's Rules of Order. Every planning commissioner shall have a copy of Robert's Rules of Order to ensure compliance. Any question regarding procedures found in Robert's Rules of Order will be directed to the chairman, who then may refer the matter to city staff for interpretation and/or clarification. Discussion and action. Members of the public have the opportunity to speak on items that appear on the agenda as they come up during the course of the meeting and prior to the Planning Commission taking any action on that item. Any person desiring to address the Planning Commission shall first obtain permission from the chairman to do so. In granting permission, the chairman may limit the time a person may speak. As a general rule, 5 minutes. The public will also have a separate opportunity to address the Planning Commission on items of interest within the Planning Commission's subject matter jurisdiction. In addressing the Planning Commission, each person shall stand and give his or her name and address for the record. Don't think that's going to work. All remarks shall be addressed to the chairman and not directed towards any commissioner. No person other than the chairman and the person having the floor shall be permitted to enter any discussion unless the chairman grants permission to another commissioner. No commissioner shall speak to or enter a conversation with a member of the audience without permission of the chairman. No question shall be directed to a commissioner or a member of staff without permission of the chairman. The Planning Commission will vote on all matters requesting action. Action items will be voted on by way of motion and second. Discussion on, if any, then by an audible vote. On all matters that conclude with passing a resolution or the adoption of an ordinance, a roll call vote will be taken. A majority vote of the Planning Commission in attendance is needed to approve most items. There are cases in which more than a majority vote is needed to move an item. Planning Commission Policy Apartment Live-In Manager. We got a little typo here. The property owner shall utilize a live-in manager for multiple family complexes of 16 units or more as required by state law. Failure to comply with a live-in manager requirement can be treated as grounds for disapproval of a site plan by the Planning Commission or reported to the State of California Department of Housing and Community Development for enforcement actions. And it looks like item number 5 about driveway access lanes is being deleted. Now let's see what worked itself into the new Draft Planning Commission procedural rules. Addressing the Planning Commission. When called upon, the person is requested to come to the podium, must state his/her name for the record, and if speaking for an organization or other group, identify the organization or group represented. A speaker from the public is not required to identify or state their address. Well, that's good. Audience public comment. Audience public comment is generally accommodated as specified by the Planning Commission. Each speaker is to be given no more than 5 minutes at the chair's discretion. The audience public comment time may be extended as necessary. Vacancies and removal of planning commissioners shall be pursuant to the regulations contained in the Livingston Municipal Code, Chapter 2-2-3, Removal of Members and Vacancies. Removal of members. Any member of the commission may be removed from the commission prior to the expiration of term by majority vote of the City Council. Vacancies on the Planning Commission from whatever cause shall be filled by the City Council for the unexpired term. Resignation of members. A member of the commission may resign from the commission by filing a written statement with the city clerk stating he or she resigns from the commission. Upon filing the written statement with the city clerk, the resignation shall become effective at the time of the filing, and said member shall cease to be a member of said commission, and a vacancy shall then exist. Absence without cause. Any commissioner seat shall automatically be deemed vacant for failing to attend any 3 meetings in any 12-month period unless the absence is the result of illness or family emergency, or removal of the commissioner from office would otherwise be prohibited by law. In the event that a commissioner is unable to attend a meeting due to illness or family emergency, the commissioner shall inform the city manager or the community development director at the earliest opportunity before the meeting in order for the absence to be excused. The commission shall immediately inform the city council of such vacancy. Vacancies on the Planning Commission from whatever cause shall be filled by the City Council for the unexpired term. A planning commissioner shall inform the city manager, the planning director, or planning staff by telephone, email, or in writing at the earliest opportunity before the meeting in order for such absence to be excused. Now let's take a brief look at the staff report about the declaration of 2 Planning Commission vacancies and expiration of 2 Planning Commissioner terms. The Livingston Planning Commission recently has 2 vacancies in its roster of regular members. In addition, 2 members of the Planning Commission have terms that expired on December 31st, 2022. Commissioners whose terms have expired may continue to serve on the Planning Commission until an appointment by a majority of the City Council has been approved. Presently, 2 Planning Commissioner vacancies have occurred with 1, the election of Planning Commissioner Jason Roth to the City Council, and 2, the resignation of Planning Commissioner Adanan Bath. In addition, the term of Planning Commissioner Steve Bassi and the term for Planning Commissioner alternate Andres Fuentes expired on December 31st, 2022. Both commissioners have verbally expressed a desire to be reappointed to the Planning Commission. If you like what I do here, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Facebook. And remember, editorial content is my own as a resident of Livingston and City Council watcher since at least 2007 and does not represent the views and opinions of the City Council or the City of Livingston.